Hey, all right. All right, well, thank you for coming. My name is Prudy Holman, and I work with Montana Department of Transportation, and I'm here today to talk to you about snowplow safety. There's nothing I'm going to teach you today that is rocket science. Everything that I have to talk about today is pretty much common sense, but I'm going to talk to you about it or teach it to you maybe in a way that you've never looked at it before, and that's how to drive around a snowplow, what to expect in winter conditions, and what to expect from the Department of Transportation. We're going to start out today with a video, and that video was made here in Montana by Montanans. It was very economical for us to make. Most videos run about $100,000. Fortunately, this one was only about 10 grand. It was filmed here by our own truck drivers, and it runs about 20 minutes. And at the end of it, we'll go through our flip chart, and we'll talk about some driving safety things for you, and it will help you be better drivers. Now, there's one thing I want you to remember throughout this entire presentation today. I want you to take one piece of information that I give you home. You will be the best possible teacher to your own family. If you can take one piece of information I give you today home, you can help create a safer and a better place to drive in Montana. So we're going to watch the video now, and the video is called Winning the Winter Game. It's about 20 minutes long.
It weighs 56,000 pounds fully loaded. A plow alone weighs more than a ton. With its carbide blade and cantilever design, it can throw snow and whatever else happens to be there up to 60 feet. The tires are 3 feet in diameter, and there are 10 of them on each truck. The sander carries 8 cubic yards of sand, enough to sand 10 miles of road. 500 trucks take care of Montana's 20,000 miles of highway. In a major statewide storm, the fleet plows its way around the earth nearly twice just to clear the roads once.
Most of us drivers are prepared to be on call 24 hours a day, depending upon the heavy traffic areas.
Yeah, driving one of these snowplows is a lot different than driving a passenger car or a pickup truck or something lighter, because they are heavy and they're top heavy. The plow.
We drive in the worst of conditions in the winter, and we're out there every storm, where most drivers are there just when they need to go somewhere.
We face the ultimate in winter driving conditions. We see the conditions before anybody else does, and more often than anybody else does.
All right, people, listen up. Now, the passing play is a very important part of the game. But there are times when you pass, and there are times when you don't pass.
If they want to pass that snowplow, they can. There's no law that says they can't. But they've got to realize that ahead of that plow is the reason we're there.
Now, you're behind a plow, right? And that plow is running interference for you, making it possible for you to get through. Now, the driver will pull over when it's safe and let you go by. That plow is only going a limited distance, so you can afford to wait. Besides, you can't see anyway, and if you get out in front of your protection, pow, you could get creamed. Okay, there's a couple of other passing situations you should be aware of. Now, sometimes plows work together. You get 3, maybe as many as 5 of these monsters passing the snow off to each other. That means they're opening up a really big, safe route for you. So don't even think of getting in front of your blockers. Bad place to be. Next thing, when it's really icy out there, the plows will be sanding. It's like your team is rolling out the red carpet for you. So stay there and take advantage of it. They will turn off the sand on 2-lane roads for oncoming vehicles, so don't worry about that. But the rule is, when plows are sanding, give them room. Don't crowd the plow. Is that clear? Okay.
And it was blowing so hard that We were virtually working in a whiteout. And all of a sudden I have a semi right beside me. I don't think he even knew I was there.
The wind's blowing and the snow's bellowing. We may not be able to see them if they're right beside us. So they have to be real careful.
Okay. You see some big bruiser of a semi approaching, and you know it's going to kick up a whole lot of snow. So here's what you do. First, while you can still see, scan the road ahead and make a mental picture of any potential hazards. You know, bridges, other cars, curves, that kind of thing. Second, watch for those little reflectors on the side of the road. They're called delineators, and a lot of roads have them. That's your sideline. Third, check the traffic behind you. Okay, now you have all the information you need. The final thing you do is take a deep breath, a steady hand, trust your mental picture, watch for delineators, and wait till the snow clears. What shouldn't you do? Stop for one thing. You can slow down, but you've got to keep moving. Otherwise, you're liable to get rear-ended. So don't do it. Also, no sudden jerky movements that could send you into a spin. Oh yeah, and ixnay on the cruise control. If you got it, turn it off. And that goes for all winter driving. And of course, always drive with your lights on.
On a two-lane highway, at times it may seem to the public that we're leaning too far into their lane. There's a reason for that. We need to clean the entire road off, including the center line. We're not trying to scare or intimidate anyone. If I had advice for those people, I would say just slow down and stay to the right.
So here's a scouting report on some things you might find snowplows doing out there on the highway this winter. Snowdrifts can cause plows to slow down suddenly. And if the drift is hard and frozen, the plow can bounce right off like a cornerback off a 300-pound lineman. So stay back. Hey, this isn't rocket science here. Another thing snowdrifts do is give you big clouds of snow. Whiteout, zero visibility. In other words, prepare to drive in a whiteout using the game plan we talked about before. Thirdly, snowplows sometimes slow down for bridges. So be aware of that. And if you know a bridge is coming, be prepared to give them room.
I would say to be patient. If you come up behind the snowplow, we want you to get where you're going just as badly as you want to get there. We'll pull over, we'll give you a chance to pass. Don't try to pass unless it's safe. If you can see to pass, that's safe. If you can't see, wait.
Finally, you should know that snowplows use those authorized vehicle turnouts on the interstate. So they might be making a left-hand turn in front of you from the left-hand lane. So what do you do to avoid trouble? Right, you give them plenty of room. Now there's one more thing that you should be really on the ball about during winter. Are you ready for this? Do I have your undivided attention? Kids.
We do encounter kids out there in the snowplow. I've even had them try to run into the stream of the snow cloud the plow creates.
It's a big thrill to stand underneath the snow as it comes out of the plow. It's also extremely dangerous. Plowing sanding material off the road, rocks, any other debris that's laying on the road is just like a missile, a projectile. Could cause serious injury. The kids need to stay back far enough that they're safe. We'll blow our horns, we'll wave, stay back.
All right, let's review some fundamentals. To be safe when driving in winter, you have to be visible. Always drive with your lights on. We're talking common sense here. Your lights may be the only thing a plow driver can see of you. And this one little precaution just might save your life without you ever knowing it. Next, it may sound obvious, but in heavy snow, your lights can get covered over pretty fast. Especially your hazard lights and your brake lights, too. Stopping along the roadside is a bad idea unless you have no choice. And if you have to stop, don't step out onto the road when you see a plow coming. Again, it doesn't take a degree in advanced theoretical physics to know that this is an incredibly dangerous place to be. Which brings me to the next point. Don't challenge a snowplow. Ever. You will lose. They're hard to stop. They're hard to maneuver. Even if it's technically your right-of-way, don't be stupid, okay? Now, these drivers are on your team, but if you get in their way, it ain't gonna be pretty. Oh, yeah, did I mention you gotta wear your seatbelts? But I guess that would come under, All right, last point, but it's a big one. When a really bad storm is raging, you'll hear on the radio or television that the state has issued an emergency travel-only advisory. So, what's an emergency? Running low on potato chips? Just gotta see that movie? It means you're in a life and death situation, because that's what you're risking when you drive under blizzard conditions. No one can see you, and if you get in trouble, it's going to be tough to rescue you. Other people will have to risk their lives. Not good. So if you hear ETO, just stay put. You know, watch a football game or something. All right, that's enough on that. You guys aren't idiots. But winter is a tough opponent, so you gotta be smart. You gotta play tough defense or it'll blow you out. But the strategy is sound, and you've got some big teammates to clear the way. So, drive smart, drive safe. Oh, and let's have fun out there.
I love driving snowplows. It's a great sense of accomplishment. I feel like I'm doing something for the public and for the people, maintaining the roads and keeping them clear and dry.
Plowing snow gives me a great sense of accomplishment. You look in the mirror and you have instant results. Very gratifying.
Our job is to make the driving easier for the people who drive our roads in Montana.
Okay, now did you take notes? Because I have a few questions for you. How much does a fully loaded snowplow weigh?
55,000 pounds.
Real close, 56,000 pounds. A fully loaded snowplow weighs 56,000 pounds. How much does an average vehicle weigh?
3,000 to 4,000 pounds.
3,000 to 4,000 pounds. Very good. You're going to get all the prizes of the day. An average vehicle in Montana is an SUV or a pickup, and it weighs about 4,000 pounds. But think about, what do your kids drive? What does your mom drive? What does the little old lady across the street drive? My kids each drive small cars. One drives a Subaru, one drives a little Nissan Sentra, and they weigh about 1,500 pounds. How much does the blade on the front of the plow weigh alone?
Probably
just the blade.
5,000 pounds, I guess.
Actually, it weighs 1 ton. 2,000. Very good, very good. 2,000 pounds. The plow itself weighs a ton, more than the average little vehicle weighs, without all that weight coming in behind it. So just from the video alone, we've learned that that truck is huge. And the amount of sand and snow and pack on it only increases the weight. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Again, we're the Transportation Awareness Program. We're sponsored by Montana Department of Transportation, and we're going to learn about avoiding getting plowed. Here are some things to watch for and some things to learn. This is an interstate situation. Now, if I was plowing on the interstate, if we had all the plows in the world, we'd do it like this every time. We'd send out enough plows to clear the whole interstate at once. But unfortunately, we don't have all the plows in the world. In fact, we have somewhere around 600 statewide, we have plows. But generally, what you're going to see is the plow is going to clear the driving lane, the passing lane, and then both of the shoulders in order to clear the road. Now, if you ran into this in real life, you ran into 4 plows like this, where would you pass? Where's the best place to
I'd
pass?
go through, up the driver's line and get behind him and then pull over into the passing line and pass, providing I could see.
Okay, well, that's exactly what we don't want you to do. In this situation, there's absolutely nowhere to pass. Absolutely nowhere. Wait it out. Be patient. And wait back here behind the last plow. Most people do try to come, just like you said, come all the way up the driving lane and then scoot over into the passing lane. That's a deadly situation, and I have stacks of pictures to show you. In this scenario, if you run across this on the interstate, be patient. Snowplows are only going a limited distance. They'll pull over and let you by. They're not going very far. And what's in front of the plow that's not behind the plow?
Snow.
Snow, right. So take your time. There's nowhere to pass in this scenario.
What do you
Now,
mean
why do we have to clean the shoulders? Why? Go
I have a
ahead.
question. What do you mean by not going very far? How's that? How many?
The plows have
miles?
routes.
Have what?
They have certain routes
Yeah.
that they travel. The question was, what do I mean by them not going so far, limited distance? The plows have certain routes, and they're only going to travel as far as their route. Now, and if they see you behind them, if you're far enough back, the plow will pull over and let you go by. So if you're far enough back and your lights are on and they can see you, that limited distance will even be less because they'll pull over and let you go right by. In this scenario, though, they have 4 of them working together, and they have to go however far, usually not much more than 6 to 10 miles. And then they'll pull over and you can go by them. But in this, why do we clean the shoulders? Why do you think it's necessary?
To keep snow from building up?
Correct. He said to keep snow from building up, also to keep it from blowing. If it will blow over onto the driving and the passing lane if we don't clear those shoulders off. So every mile you drive and I drive, the snowplow has to make 4 trips. So that's one of the reasons it takes so long to clear those roads. An interstate with a concrete barrier, we call this Jersey rail in the business, but you have all seen them, that Jersey rail right down the middle of the interstate or off to one side or the other. Well, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. There's no other way to clear the interstate except for one passing off to the other. Now, in an emergency situation, in order to get an ambulance through or to get a fire truck through, they'll plow one small line right here, and they'll dump that snow up against the Jersey rail in order to get that ambulance through. But generally, this is how it's done. There's no other way to do it. And this plow could also have a wing plow on it. It doesn't show it in this picture, but the plows have a wing plow that comes off to the side. So they're passing off from plow to plow to plow and then off to the wing plow to continue to get it off even further. Now, these guys, it's kind of hard to tell. These guys are also sanding as they're going down the road. So where do you think the best place to go to wait in this situation?
I'd say way back.
Way back, that's correct.
The sand, the rocks flying.
That's right, way back, right behind. There's nowhere to pass in this scenario whatsoever. Now, we do have a pretty severe problem with people waiting to pass. Where do you think they wait?
Right up. As close
It's
as
correct,
they can.
right here. Most people wait right here to pass. And it hinders the rest of the snowplows from doing their work.
That'd be dangerous.
They can't turn their plow, they can't turn their sand on because they're going to pepper the sides of the vehicles. But they're there to do a job. So it's very important. Just be patient. Just take a little time. Remember, they're not going very far. They're only going as far as the Jersey rail is. And oftentimes, like in between Helena and Wolf Creek, they'll pull half of that, turn around in the middle, and then pull the other half. So you have to give them room for all the plows to get over and then to go through the rail and then come back. So just be patient. Know that especially just stay back. When they're working around Jersey rail, they're only going as far as that rail is going to go. On and off ramps, interstate on and off ramps. When we talk about construction zones, I talk about orange and black, meaning your environment is going to change. If If you've seen an orange and black sign in a construction zone, it means your environment is going to change. I think all on and off ramps should be painted orange and black because they mean your environment is going to change. Now, you might think that on and off ramps would be some of the first things to get plowed, but in reality, they're some of the last things to get plowed. Now, I kind of tease our drivers a little bit. Unless they're going after fuel or sand, aggregate, or really good coffee, they're not going to this on and off ramp very often. So let's say we're driving down the interstate, and boy, it's a nice clear day, and the passing lane doesn't look so good. But the driving lane looks really good. You can click right along in the driving lane, say at 50, 55 miles an hour, but you're way over in eastern Montana, and you have to get off at Whoop-em-Up Creek. And you decide, oh, well, heck, it looks great, and you take that interchange at 55 miles an hour, you're going to go right through that interchange and maybe across the top, and if you're really, really lucky, down the other side and back onto the interstate. But probably you're going to buy some fence, and you're going to buy some guardrail, and you may have an awful opportunity to get hurt there. On and off ramps are extremely dangerous. They're some of the last to get plowed.
You gotta slow way
So
down.
you have to slow down and be conscious of that. The other thing that this picture depicts is the fact that there's a plow
And a pile of snow.
and a pile of snow, and these cars are coming this way. Well, who has the right-of-way here?
Snowplow.
Snowplow. When does a snowplow not have the right-of-way?
Never.
You're right, only when it's a train. Emergency service vehicles, they have a right-of-way, of course, over a snowplow. But in general traffic, even if you think the plow is in the wrong, remember how much it weighs? 56,000 pounds. It cannot stop on a dime. It always has the right-of-way. So in this case, obviously, this truck has the right-of-way. Okay, so he's gone by, it's an April snow, or maybe an October snow, and it's really wet. And it's left this huge berm here.
It's hard to get through that.
It's very hard to get through that. You are a driver's ed teacher. You're sitting in this white pickup right here, and you have next to you your 16-year-old student. What do you tell your 16-year-old student to do to get through this berm of snow? Any ideas?
It depends on how deep it is and how thick it is.
Right, it's deep. It's a
And
foot
I'd back
deep.
up and try to go through it.
It's deep, and it's a foot thick.
And I'd go fast enough so I didn't get stuck in it.
Well, that's absolutely correct. The answer to that is look both ways, look behind you. Always you're in a yield position here. Snowplow has the right-of-way. Left a giant berm in front of you. Can't back up. You're on an interstate on-ramp. So you have to grip the wheel firmly, just like they talked about in the video. Check behind you. Make sure that you actually have the right-of-way and you get to go. Pick a spot ahead of you in the road. Nothing coming at you, preferably not a truck coming at you. Pick something that's stationary, a sign, something ahead of you that you can focus on. Firm grip on the wheel, double check behind you one more time, and then firmly accelerate through that berm of snow. As soon as you get through the berm of snow, let up on the accelerator, make sure you're not on ice, and continue on to the road. It's a tricky situation, and it's hard driving no matter what age you are to get through this berm of snow. Make sure the snowplow's gone on ahead far enough that you're not going to run into it when you firmly accelerate through the berm of snow. But that's the only way to get through it. And we do see people stuck. We see them when they have the big berm of snow.
Yeah, they can get stuck easy. When the left wheel hits the snow first at an angle like that too, and that'll make your whole car move.
That's a very good point.
So
The left wheel
so you
can,
try to hit it as
that's why it's such a firm grip on the steering wheel, and that's why it's so important that you pick something ahead of you
Get
to
some
look
motion,
at,
yeah, and don't
so that
see
you
nowhere.
get it, that you keep your firm grip and keep eye contact ahead of you, so that you don't look at the front of the car or just
that-
look at the ditch. It's real important that you look way ahead. That's a very good point. Authorized turnarounds only. Authorized vehicles only. This is the most dangerous place for any snowplow driver to be. It's very difficult for the traffic to see what they're doing. They're making a left-hand turn from the left-hand lane. As we saw in the video, their tail lights could easily be covered up. The other thing that you need to know about authorized vehicles only is this is the absolute best case scenario in the world. Most generally, that snowplow starts its radius clear over here, and then it takes entire radius to get that cleared and ends up clear over here in order to get that turnaround to happen. And in many places in Montana, in the state, this area right here, between here and here, is not large enough for the entire snowplow to fit. The sander sticks out the back, and the blade sticks out the front. So it's an incredibly dangerous situation for the snowplow driver to be there and for the public that's passing and coming. Okay, there's a couple things here that are probably pretty wrong. This white car down here, okay, what's going to happen to him? What do you think's going to happen with this white car right here?
Nothing, he just slows down and goes.
Well, that's the
If
best
guys-
place.
If the guy's pulling in front
We're
of him, then
hoping
he's
that
gotta
he can
watch out.
slow down and not run into the back of this snowplow. But it looks like that close in the passing lane, he's in the wrong lane, he's too close to the plow, he's going to marry the back of that plow. He's going to become one with the sander. If you're driving a red car at sunset, you're invisible. If you're driving a gray car on gray asphalt, you're invisible, all without your lights on. All it takes the difference to see you in the summer, in the winter, especially in the winter, is driving with your lights on. This plow would never, ever pull out in front of this vehicle if they had their lights on and they were visible to be seen. It's very important that you drive with your lights on, especially in winter. It's the only thing that could save your life, and you may never even know it. So remember, authorized vehicles only, left-hand turn out of a left-hand lane, extremely dangerous place to be. Extremely dangerous place to be. And I think they should be all painted orange too, because your environment's going to change when there's a snowplow around an authorized vehicle only.
What if they made it illegal for snowplows to turn in those?
If they made it illegal for snowplows to turn in them, we would take twice as long to clear the roads.
Okay.
That's why they're there, so that when we're only going that limited distance, we can pull off into that authorized turnaround and get back and continue to clean the road. That's why they're there for us and for Highway Patrol ambulance. Two-lane highway. Mike Severson was the gentleman on the video that talked about what do you do on a two-lane highway. And, you know, he said, be patient, move to the right. It's very, very important that you remember that. He's cleaning the center line of snow. Why is it so important to clean the center line?
Otherwise, it'll pile up and cause lots of trouble.
That's right. It'll pile up and cause lots of trouble. There's other thing that happens. All of our roads are built with a crown. Most of them are 2%. My fingers are the center line, and my knuckles are the side of the road. That's about the pitch of the way most of our roads are built. Or they have a super like this, but they're all built to drain. So if we leave a berm running right down the middle of the road, say it's one of those storms, and it gets, you get up in the morning, it's snowing, and it's 20 degrees. By afternoon, it's 55 degrees, and we have a berm of snow right down the middle of this road. Well, by evening again, it freezes. What happens to that berm of snow?
It's ice.
It's black ice. It melts and runs across that road, and it creates black ice. So if we leave that berm while they're plowing, it's a hazard. Your tires can catch it. If we leave it and it melts down, it turns into black ice in the evening. It's absolutely vital that that center lane is cleared off. So when you see the snowplow coming at you, and it looks like he's coming right at you, please, please don't pull in front of the snowplow. Always, always go right. We had an accident over in eastern Montana a couple years ago. It was very similar to what this page looks like. There was a car coming across the bridge. The bridge was on a skew, the bridge was on a corner, and the plow was coming onto the bridge. The person in the car thought that the bridge was, or that the plow was 6 feet into her lane. And actually the plow was about 2 pencil lengths into her lane, and she went right. She pulled right in front of the snowplow. She went right, she thought the plow was coming at her, and she went right in front of the snowplow. It caught the plow, caught the car at the back door, and ripped the back of the plow off, ripped the back of the car off. And there was a child seat in the car. Now, the child wasn't injured. There was no child in it. But we no longer have that snowplow driver employed for us. It was very traumatic for them. And I'll bet that that woman never gets in a car again during the snow without thinking about that. If you ever feel like you're getting into a head-on situation, always go right. Never pull in front of the car that's coming at you or the snowplow that's coming at you. Always go right. The other thing to know about bridges, and especially about bridges, is, they stay where we build them. Before I started teaching these kind of classes, I worked on bridges. I worked on them for several years. Well, you know what? When we build a bridge, it stays pretty much right there. But the ground around it expands and contracts. And in the winter, it contracts. And it can leave lips on the edge of the bridge. So you can be traveling along. Most of us drive the same route all the time. So as you're traveling along, in the wintertime, you might notice a little more of a bump as you go across the bridge. Well, if you're following a plow, that plow is required to not hit that bump. It has to stop or slow down, pick its blade up, and then continue along across that bridge. So they could be traveling along. Most snow plows travel at 35 miles an hour while they're plowing snow. So you're coming along and the plow's getting slower and slower and slower, and he's coming to a bridge and almost to an exact stop, and picks his blade up and then continues across the bridge. If you're too close, if you don't give yourself an opportunity to be far enough away from that plow, you're going to run into it. The other thing you should know is that we can't just shoot our snow off into the river. For one, what if it's not a river underneath there? What if it's an interstate interchange and it's your car under there?
Or a train track.
Or you don't want that snow coming off the top of that bridge into your vehicle. The other thing is we can't add sediment to the rivers. If it's a big flowing river, it might not make much of a difference. But in a small river, a small creek, and we put sediment and sediment and sediment into it, you could stop the flow of it. So just know that your environment is going to change around bridges and snowplows.
Do they push the snow to the other side?
Yes, they do. They push the snow to the other side and then let it melt.
And then go over?
Yeah, they push it over and then they let it melt, and then it'll run down the embankments. But yeah, that's what they do. They don't shoot it off.
That's good to know about the bridge, that they slow down.
Yeah, they slow right down for bridges in 2 lanes. Okay, this is where we're going to sand. We're going to sand on hills and curves and on bridges and at intersections. And we're going to sand anywhere there's shady. If there's a bunch of buildings and the street's real shady and it's our responsibility, if it's a state road, we're going to sand where those shaded areas are. Oftentimes you don't think about when the road dips down and there's embankments on both sides, boy, it can create quite a shady spot in the middle. Those are the places that we're going to sand. Now, so the sand is out there. Does that mean you're perfectly safe? You can just drive however fast you want to now?
You still got to be careful.
That's right. Sand is a good thing. The abrasives we use help save lives. But in heavy truck traffic, they'll only last about 20 minutes. And then that sand is blown off to the edge of the road. So remember that the sand is there, and it's there to keep you safe, but it isn't a cure-all. And the number one priority of the transportation department is to keep you safe. Keep you safe by repairing your roads, keep you safe by sanding your roads, keep you safe by not having potholes in our interstates. That's our whole job, is to keep you safe. And sanding helps keep you safe. The one thing you need to know about intersections is when you pull up to that intersection, that sand is going to do a really good job of helping you start. But it's not going to do such a good job helping you stop. Now in town, when your speeds are slower, you have a slower speed going on, that sand is going to help you both ways. It's going to help you start and it's going to help you stop. But when you get out in a little, on the rural roads where the intersections are sanded and you're traveling a little quicker, that sand isn't going to be a cure-all for you. Just remember that. The other thing that you should know is that we mix a small amount of salt in our sand. And that is in order to help not it be a big chunk when they go to get it out of the sanding area and put it into the trucks. All of our sands go through, we call it sand, it's actually aggregate, sanding material. Very, very strict regulations before they can put it out on the road. Most of the material that goes out there isn't much bigger around than the size of a pencil. So we have to be very careful. We're regulated, extremely regulated on what we can put out onto the road for reasons of broken windows and broken headlights and damage to vehicles. But like I mentioned, our number one priority is to keep the traveling public safe. Well, if we walked out of here today and there was a really good snowstorm going on, would you just not drive your vehicle home? Would you just leave it because it's not safe to take? Probably not. So we have to offer something other than sand.
That stuff is terrible.
That stuff is terrible. I knew that would be the first comment. What we use in Montana right now is magnesium chloride. It is a chemical deicer. It is 70%, well, right now we have new specs, 80% less corrosive than straight salt. But I mentioned we don't use straight salt in Montana. Many years ago, the decision was made that we would be a non-salt state. And I mentioned we use a small amount of it in our stockpiles across the state to keep them from being rock hard.
How bad does the salt rust the cars?
How bad does salt rust the cars?
In Montana, when you don't use, I know in the east it's real bad.
Right. We have the rust issues in Montana come from magnesium and calcium chlorides. And yes, they will rust your vehicles. The most important thing you can do, it's much more important in the winter even than in the summer, is wash your cars. Winter maintenance is very, very important.
You wash
It's
underneath?
wash underneath, take it to the car wash, have it washed all the way throughout it. Magnesium chloride, what it does is it lowers the point of freezing. Okay, you spray it out there. We use it in 3 different ways. We put it out just in time, we call it, when the storm is just beginning to happen. And we go out and spray it on our bridge decks, and we spray it in our intersections. We spray it in the areas we know there's buildup of ice. And that's just in time. Now, the other way that we use it is on our sand itself. There's snivvies that if the sanding truck drops sand down onto a wheel, and there's snivvies that are inside the mechanism that saturates that sand with magnesium chloride. And then when that magnesium chloride goes down, it hits the sand, the sand hits the ice and spreads out there and immediately burns into the ice a little bit, and then there's a thin layer of ice over the top of it, sandpaper. You have aggregate sticking to the ground that if otherwise would be just like throwing marbles on a linoleum floor. But with a small amount of magnesium chloride sprayed into it, it sticks to that surface and creates a sandpaper. The third way that we use it is after the storm. And there's huge ice buildups. The temperature has risen. You can't use magnesium chloride or any chemical deicer when the temperatures are real low. The temperature has risen, and we'll go out and put a more amount on that ice, and it will help break it up, and then the plows come along and plow off slush instead of straight ice. It helps them. It's a tremendous safety issue for the Department of Transportation. People don't stay home. You know, I guess I'll give you a little history lesson. The Department of Transportation was formed in about 1913. We created our first state map in 1919. We started using abrasives on the road and clearing snow. Well, we started clearing snow in about the late 30s and the early 40s. We started using a tremendous amount of abrasives about that same time. Well, along came the legislation in the 70s and said, look, guys, you got to do something different. We've bought every headlight and windshield in the state of Montana, and you have to figure out a better way to keep us safe. And then they started experimenting and looking at what they were doing in foreign countries and other ways to keep the state safe, keep the drivers safe. Then they started experimenting a little bit with magnesium chlorides. Well, then along came some national legislation, and one of them is the Clean Air Act. And the Clean Air Act, which here in Missoula you might be very familiar with, the Clean Air Act requires that there's no PM10 in the air at all. Now, PM10 are tiny, tiny, tiny little minute particles. that you can't even see. If you can see the dust, then the PM10 is the stuff you can't see inside the dust. And once you breathe it into your lungs, that's it. It never goes away. Now, and as you know, here in Missoula, you're in a non-containment area. So we cannot use abrasives in some of the areas around here at all. So we had to go to something to continue to keep you safe. But along with that Clean Air Act, the legislation says, all right, transportation industry, you have to do something else besides put abrasives on the ground. Not just putting them out. In the spring, when we're cleaning them up, and then the traffic grinds them up and creates this fine, fine dust. So we were directed by legislation to find a better way to keep us safe. And that better way is chemical deicers. We experiment with other things. Now, mostly in the state, it's all magnesium chloride. But it lowers the temperature of freezing, prevents the ice from building up. It's only used when it's needed to be used. The biggest thing you need to know about any chemical deicer, whether it's a state using it or a city using it or somebody in their parking lot using it, is that winter maintenance is a really, really important. Wash your vehicles. The other thing is that if you're the kind of guy that, or gal, that checks the wiring by putting little holes in your wiring to see where your short is, well, that will become a conduit for the magnesium chloride, and you will have nice empty wire holes because magnesium chloride will eat wires. So be cautious. It's saving your life. But remember that you have to be cautious and use some winter maintenance. You know, don't leave exposed wires. If you've got your boat wired up and those wires are exposed, don't leave your exposed wires. So it's environmentally sound. They test it all the time, constantly testing magnesium chloride. It goes through rigorous tests. We are in a coalition. 5 states and British Columbia work together to have very, very strict, stringent requirements before we even buy the product and bring it into Montana and put it on our roads. So we're always looking for a better way. We're always looking for the best way we can to keep you safe. It's also used as fertilizer. It's the same strength we put it out on the road. They use it in dryland farming as fertilizer. So it's environmentally sound. And I know that it can get a bad rap. Mag can get a bad rap, but it gets you home. Now, there's a few things we can do and we can't do if we're out there. We're all first aid and CPR trained, or most of us that drive for the state. And that if you get in an accident or if you're having problems on the side of the road, we will call the Highway Patrol for assistance. All of the big trucks have radios in them. Most of our plow drivers carry cell phones. They will call before they ever even stop. They may go right by you and you think, oh, that plow, it's not even stopping to help me. But they have actually already called ahead of time. And we'll offer general assistance in any possible way we can. We can't give you a ride. We can't tow you out. You know, we have this agreement going on with the towing companies. See, they won't plow snow and we don't tow people out of the ditch. No, actually, it's a liability issue and we can't pull you out of the ditch. Now, if it's 40 below out and you're driving in an ETO, an emergency travel only, and you've slid off into the ditch, that plow driver's going to pull over and let you warm up. He's not allowed to take you anywhere, but he'll let you stay warm. He'll make sure you're safe until the Highway Patrol gets there. But he'll probably tell you all about driving in an ETO, an emergency travel only.
Okay.
Well, there's another thing I want to tell you about, and that's our new phone number. 511 is our new travel number, and it's dial before you drive number. You can call it toll free from any phone, including a cell phone, and get up to the minute road conditions. One of the really nice things about the 511 number is that it'll also give you a weather forecast. Say you're going from Missoula to Broadus, and you're leaving Missoula at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're thinking that you'll be getting into Broadus, about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And it's great, clear skies all the way here, but the person, it's a computer voice, will tell you, you know what, the roads are perfectly clear right now, your whole route. But at 4 o'clock this afternoon, between Miles City and Broadus, they have a snowstorm predicted for 3 inches of snow. So that will be information that you can have off of the 511. Dial before you drive, 511. And it's absolutely toll-free. I do suggest that you stop and pick up a free map from our highway department, any one of them in the state, because you will need to know the route numbers in order to efficiently work the 511 system. So we have lots of free maps, and you're more than welcome to stop by and pick them up at the front desk and tell them you saw us on MCAT, and they'll know why you're there to get our map, and we have lots of stuff. The 511 number is another tool for us to help save lives. We also have the website. We're out there on the web, www.mdt.state.us. Oh, I'm sorry, .mt.us. www.mdt.state.mt.us. And that's our website. And we have 12 cameras that you can go out there in the daytime and look and see what the roads look like. It's every 15 minutes they update that picture, so you get virtually real-time footage on the cameras out on our website. The other thing, this is free service, and if you're interested in having somebody with the Transportation Awareness Program come into your civic organization, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, driver's ed classes, grade schools, churches, we come in free of charge. We bring a snowplow with us most of the time. And you just contact your local Montana Department of Transportation office. They'll put you in contact with me or the area coordinator. Okay, are there any more questions? Yes?
Yeah, I use the 511 number. We just went to Lewistown and back, and it also tells when they're working on the roads.
Right, winter and summer both,
Like
construction.
Oil
Yeah.
and chips and flagman, and,
Right,
and then I
right.
took an alternate route that
Yeah.
wasn't oil and chips. And
Right, and we do this same program for
And it-
summer driving too. Obviously not the same program,
And during
but
the
we talk
fire-
about summer driving,
the fires too, it told about the smoke.
right?
And the visibility, how
Yeah.
many miles and everything. It's really good. I've been using that for years, and they changed it to a 511. It used to be a bigger number.
Right. And 511 will eventually be nationwide. You'll be able to travel across the entire United States and use 511 just like you can a 911 number in emergency.